really good segue into what I have to say, because Taylor is performing femininity as a wealthy white woman in like this most amazing way. So a lot of people get upset with Taylor because they don't feel like she's being as active as she is. But you need to understand, Taylor is one of the most liberal people who is a billionaire. And because she has this financial savvy, because she's in the room, she has influence over things. Just because we don't see her doing things doesn't mean she's not doing things. And this is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly fine, like, use of gender performance and wielding your white woman privilege to use white men to defend artists. Like, it is so critical that we analyze this from the perspective that she put on a performance at the beginning to be as endearing to as many people as possible, and then artist rights right out the door with her most important concern, and with a concern that really does impact so many queer people, so many marginalized people in general. Like, media is so predominated by marginalized people, and that is why so many of us that are marginalized, whether we be queer, whether we be, you know, BIPOC, whether we be disabled, whether we be neurodivergent, like, a lot of us jive with music. Media is one of the first places that we find ourselves represented, because so many of those people are queer, neurodivergent, BIPOC, have all these expansive experiences that, like, Joe Blow down the road just doesn't have. Like, that is why the music and the art that comes out of those segments of the community, whilst it's not as financially dominant, it's extremely culturally dominant. Like, when you go to film schools, you're not watching Michael Bay movies. You may watch a Marvel film. And admittedly, I have not been to film school in 20 years, so it may have changed since I was there. But you're watching a lot of film by people from other countries. You're watching a lot of film from people who dropped out of school, because a lot of directors are probably neurodivergent, because of the fact that the things that make us not want to conform make us flock to spaces where we feel accepted. And I think it's so important that this kind of community, I say that Gaylor is the world's biggest group project, because Taylor absolutely wants us to come together. She has done so much on her own. She has benefited so much from collaboration and from love and togetherness and community, especially queer community. And because of that, that is like what makes her such a good artist. Like, that's one of the things that makes her so predominant. But she also has that thing where she grew up upper class white woman, and she therefore has that sort of social ability to recognize that women are not truly perceived as equal, even by the most feminist leading of men. And because of that, if you really want to rise to the top, you have to leverage white men to do it. I don't blame white women for leveraging white men to get things done, because truthfully, you're going to go with what works. Taylor knows that what gets changed is money and the cis heteronormativity patriarchy, with all of the other, you know, you guys know the words. I sometimes don't stream because I get self-conscious about the fact that I know somebody is just going to clip me, like, using a gender-neutral dude, and, like, try to use this as an example how I'm not... I am so woke that I sometimes get perceived as not being woke. I think comments are about a minute or two delayed. It seemed that way when I was looking earlier. Rachel, it's great to see you here. It's great to have so much support about just, you know, being disabled, being queer, all of that stuff. I think that's one of the reasons I like this space. Like I said, Taylor spent so much time on her own, then she realized how valuable community is, and now she's trying to give us community. She is trying to leverage pop culture and pop media. Anything that society dismisses, that mocks, that denigrates, that attaches shame to, that is where the true power in the world is. Shame is a powerful motivator, especially if you come from a lot of these shame-based religious structures, a lot of these coercive control religious structures, and so they attach shame to things like gossip, things like speculation, things like being queer, things for, you know, not putting on the same performance, all of these things. Yes. I feel so bad. There are some people that I'm like, I'm not sure if you're on my side or not, so I'm gonna have to check a couple more videos. And it's always, and those people always end up to being like my dearest friends on the internet, because like, I don't know, I don't excel at detail, and I get so in my head about all of these detail-oriented Swifties. I am a really big picture person, and I just need to embrace that. I am really good at sitting up on the mountain like an eagle and scavenging from everybody's little theories and then being like, okay, and this is how they all come together. Yes, Maria, I love you. I think, Maria, you are like one of my favorite internet acquisitions in terms of like friendship, just because I don't know, I can't explain this to you. I'm really hypervigilant because of all the crap that I went through as a kid, and I think that is why I'm so good at analysis. And a lot of times I use analysis because if I put that hypervigilant part of myself in my real life, I am a mess. I can't sit here and overthink, and you will notice I will go quiet or I will switch to almost exclusively non-Gaylor content. I am very insecure in those moments, and I'm comfortable with myself to say that, because I hope that other people will relate to that, because it goes back to that shame structure. Okay, but now that I think we're gathered, now that I think that I'm warmed up and I'm in my performance mode, which I admit, I am this is a performance too. So if you hadn't realized that, the reason that I recognize so much of what Taylor does is because I do it, or because I want to do it. I envy. Game recognizes game. Game recognizes game. And the thing that terrifies me about Taylor Swift is every time I think, I'm like, dang, she's impressive. She's doing all of this stuff all so well. And then I'm like, boom, I see something that's even higher level, and I'm like, oh, like wow, she is putting on so many acts. Let's talk about acts and performances. And I say that I have similar but different theories. Like, a lot of us kind of have, like, a lot of us have broken down Taylor into a poet and showgirl and things like that. I want to introduce people to kind of what my overarching view is, because I want you to see this performance the way I'm viewing this performance, and I think it will help the community as a whole. I am very community minded. I am very much, I need to get this information into other Gaylors' hands so they can make better plans. I love that. I have a lot of theories that are similar but different, and I have occasionally butted heads with other Swifties who had very, had kind of taken it from the opposite perspective, so we couldn't come to the middle point. Oh, MC Pants. That's another good point. I don't know how old people perceive me as, but I am nearly 42. I spent 20 years in IT security. I have a lot of experience with, I don't know how this printer, I can't figure it out, that kind of stuff. So I very much recognize game with Taylor, so much that she scares me. Okay, so a couple things, and I will occasionally read off my phone just because I know I do tangents, and I'm in a mental state where I'm prone to tangent to keep it YouTube safe. So I'm going to read off of this. I hope you all don't mind. I think because most of you are neurodivergent, you don't expect eye contact and are probably a little bit put off by it. My special interests include history, the Sewing Circle, Scotty Bowers, all of the, basically how all of our art for all history has been made by marginalized people, and especially queer marginalized people. I went to college for electronic media and film as I was getting, within a year of graduation. We had the 2007-2008 recession. There, I realized, coming from a middle-class family and wanting to be a director or a cinematographer, there was no way that I was ever going to achieve that goal. But also, I had put myself through school by working, doing in-home technical support. So I really leveraged a lot of putting on different personas 7, 8, 9 times a day just to deal with different customers, different scenarios at work, things of that nature. I have a very big special interest in what I call light deception or white deception. I used to call it white deception, I will admit, but I do think that's a very loaded terms nowadays, so now I kind of call it light deception. These things that we they're acts that we put on to kind of subvert the fact that our society cannot confront things directly. This is why I don't think it's particularly valuable. I think to a degree it is valuable for people who are living their own lived experience, like for queer actors to be queer advocates. I think that's very important. I think especially for people that are from any like type of neurodivergent or disabled community, it's really important to like have that aspect as well, like where you live your truth and you do it as advocacy. But also I recognize that when you deal with this, and like I think all of us here have made the connection with Taylor Swift neurodivergency. She probably has some level of like EDS and the associated, you know, disorders, just because she has the proportions. If you have these disorders, you have spent so much time in entire support groups around these type of people. I can spot them in minutes most of the time. Okay, thank you, sweetie. I really appreciate that you're here, Mariah. I love you too. Sorry, my mouth is getting dry. I'm not trying to call you Mariah. Maria. Okay. First, all femininity is to some degree performative, and the more high status or high visibility a woman is, the more she needs to play into that performance. Society makes it very difficult to succeed for people who don't play into that performance, so you can never really achieve the highest echelons of society unless you really perform that well. That is elbows, yes. I admit that I think Taylor has had a bit of work done. I don't think she's had as much work done as a lot of people do. I think she may occasionally do saline injections in her cheeks, because that passes very quickly. And TMI, I was into a little bit of saline play for a while, so this is something that game recognized game. I think sometimes when she's Wagler, she's kind of having that, like, you know, but I also think she's very inspired by Marlene Dietrich. One of the things Marlene Dietrich did, in addition to living with her husband and his husband's mistress, but honestly, I think that it was probably her girlfriend too, just judging by what I know of her. But anyway, Marlene Dietrich, who Taylor is very inspired by because very queer, succeeded in the way that Taylor wants to succeed in. She used to make little braids of hair along her hairline and then use that to kind of give herself like a facelift to give a more severe appearance, especially as she got into her 30s and 40s and 50s and things like that. Sorry, I am very smart, and then I just completely forget what I'm talking about. Marlene Dietrich and how, give me a second and I'll come back to it. This is the other reason. I really like being able to edit myself in videos, but editing is a lot of work because I'm uncomfortable by how I'm perceived by a lot of people. I don't mind it when it's small groups of neurodivergent people, but it's kind of annoying when it's people out of our community. Anyway, I was saying stuff about femininity and performance. Also, bread historically has a lot of queer symbolism. A lot of us came out of that podcast with theories that involved the sourdough bread and some element of queerness, especially because during folklore, all of us, Taylor probably included, went through that similar cottagecore lesbian sourdough phase. At first, and let's be real, I believe a lot of the things that are said in this podcast are lies, or they are more Easter egg than truth. I love you. MC, I'm so glad that we are going to be best friends after this, I think. Okay, so back to the bread and lesbian sourdough, and why was I talking about, tangent. 2019, I used to think this was karma because of all those lies in this. I know she's making hints that this isn't karma, but I'm like, I don't know, this do be looking like karma, because a lot of... I'm not going to directly say anything from a leak. I'm just going to allude to it for a couple seconds. So do a 30-second la 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 if you don't want leaks. But I do believe the leak was planned. There is a significant chain of evidence that the leak was planned, and if that makes you feel more comfortable listening to what I have to say. All right, we're going to go la 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 in 3, 2, 1. I think it is going to be about how women throughout history, both famous and non-famous, have had to put on a performance in order to survive in an unequal world. That is what I ultimately believe that the album is going to be about. But back to queer history of bread, so I didn't have to hurt anybody that didn't want to hear that because of leaks. I respect not wanting to see leaks, especially with what just happened to Beyonce. But also, she did it on the 12-year anniversary of Lady Gaga having to choosing to release Applause early because it leaked. And I don't think that just by happenstance, exactly 12 years later, TS12 leaked on the exact day. Like, come on. Come on. That podcast probably took several days of effort, and I think the reason that he shaved off his Prince hair when he did is so that's Taylor flexing on how quickly she put this together. This is, I don't think it's word for word scripted, but I do think each of them has a set of bullet points that they are supposed to address to get across all of the Easter eggs that they're going to. I don't know, I hope everybody has seen my video about how, the glitch one. Yeah, she's not that good, that messy. Oh shit, back to karma. I'm gonna do the ADD tangent thing. I'm just not gonna hurt myself over it because I think you'll be okay with it. Back to karma. So at first I thought it was karma. Now I'm thinking that this might be flexing, that it might be closer to folklore, because I really do feel like she had like a big queer awakening, especially after she read Untamed during 2020. It's very clear, this progression in how she portrays herself and how she communicates through her art, that she learns a lot like we all did in 2020. And I think one of the things that's so interesting about it is that like a lot of us went through the same journey, and part of the reason I think that we did is because she's planting Easter eggs to so many of these little events in queer history, all of these queer personages and things like that. So like we come across this tweet where she's talking to is it Glennon Doyle wrote Untamed, the writer of Untamed. She's talking to her wife, and they're talking about, oh, Glennon's book Help Me. And Glennon's early books were about like her marriage to a man and maternity and things like that. But then she met her wife and realized that she was not as straight as she thought, and she torpedoed her life over it, you know? A lot of us went through that journey. Yeah, exactly, MC. It's like she went from, yeah, I like girls, to, oh yeah, this is a huge part of me. I had been deceived because so much criticism against speculation says, don't speculate because this is just bedroom, this is just who you're sleeping with, this, nothing else. No. Being queer is everything you do. That's why she can say, these aren't Easter eggs about my personal life. Being queer isn't personal life. And going back to bread, oh my god, I wasn't even planning to do that, but I oh, that was a sexy segue. I'm so glad you're here to appreciate it. I have a screenshot here. I posted it on Blue Sky. I wanted to try and get all of the images in my computer, but this podcast would have been 4 days in the future if I got everything together. I do my best, like, high thoughts about Taylor on Blue Sky. So if this screenshot and the conversation that I'm going to talk about after it are both on my Blue Sky. So this is a screenshot from Inquiry, Case 014, Our Gaily Bred, from November 21st, 2019, when we were going through the cultural lesbian renaissance. Conventional wisdom suggests that the gayest bread may be no bread at all. At its foundation, though, bread is inherently queer. The Spanish call it, I'm so sorry, I don't speak Spanish or French, so I'm going to mispronounce these. The Spanish call it pan, which means an identity. The French call it pain, a way of life. And Americans performatively deny themselves the pleasure of eating it, a need for control. Now, with the release of fledgling gay icon Claire Saffitt's straightforward bread baking guide in the New York Times, a seemingly endless stream of the Great British Bake Off same-sex shipping rumors, bread's queer factor is soared. That was my TikTok. Tell me in chat if that was your TikTok in 2019. I'm sorry, I get loud. You're just gonna have to accept that if you like. If you want more measured me, watch my edited videos. But yes. So a lot of us came away from Taylor talking about sourdough and incessantly, to the point that we were bored. She bored a lot of gaylers, not me, because I'm like, oh, gay bread. I know a lot about gay bread. I listened to this podcast about it. M, who is lost in Coney on Blue Sky, has a theory that I like more. Give me a second to pull it back up. Basically, a lot of us think that she's using it as a metaphor, because obviously she can't just speak freely or she's going to lose her reach. She is trying to use her reach to manipulate, to reprogram, to liberate as many people as she can while she still can. Via pop culture, because pop culture is powerful. I am a Star Trek fan. I have lived through what good media can do, especially media that we perceive as stupid, because here's the thing, when we think something is smart, when we think it's elevated, when we think it's cerebral, we are consuming it when we are at our best. We are consuming it when we are critical thinkers. It is the stuff we turn to in our darkest, deepest moments, when we are most vulnerable, that manipulates us the most. John Waters, Trash Culture, Drag Queen Divine, that was my freaking life. Like, I sometimes think that I can't talk about queer stuff because I didn't go to that many, like, I went to college for electronic media and film because I subconsciously knew I was gay at the time, even though I wasn't, like, living my life openly that way at the time. I did also take, like, the queer and feminist because there's cute girls in that class. Like, that's literally why I was there. But the thing is, I was so distracted by all the cute girls, I didn't realize I was consuming all of this, like, freaking theory. I sometimes think that I have no power because I haven't gone through academia, and it is the opposite of the truth. Like I said at the top, anything that they teach you is invaluable. Anything that they make you shame, those are the things that are most powerful. I am, do I want to say that? Hold on a sec. Another reason that I don't podcast live is because I am very aware that the things I say give people power over me, and I'm just gonna have to, well, the good thing is I just forgot what I said about myself. I'm terrified of success. I am so afraid of success because I think on some level I know that I have good theories. I know, yes, Charlie XCS. Yes, Charlie XCS. Sorry, I always say XCS, and that's why I don't talk about her, because people are going to think that I'm stupid and I'm not like a real fan. I have a little bit of a speech impediment because my tongue is too big for my mouth, so if I ever mispronounce something, it's not me trying to be rude. I'm like not trying to invalidate your identity. Like, trust me, I respect identities more than anything else, like pawn and identity. It's just I have a tongue that is too big for my mouth. Charlie XCX is getting people incredibly subversive content when they are incredibly intoxicated. Taylor is working with Maddie Healy to impact people in a similar fashion because she realizes that people are so into the tawdry details of their personal life. Gossip is so powerful. Like, the cultures, if you come from a culture, like, my best friend is from the Philippines, I have a good friend that is from Cuba, they are all cultures that have a lot of chisme, I'm sorry, I don't 100% know how to pronounce it, culture, gossip culture. Those are also historically countries that are safer for women to live in because they trust one another's opinion of men. Women have to Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, do everything the men are doing, backwards in high heels. And because of that, the men in power who truly have perspective recognize, even if they can't appreciate that fact. Oh my God, we haven't even gotten into, I've been talking about something else for 38 minutes. Oh my God, sorry. This is good introduction, though, and I think that this is a really good rant that people might listen to and kind of understand where I come from and, like, understand my theories a little bit better. Gossip culture, keeping us safe. Content that we're consuming when we're at our lowest that has a lot of subversive power, tempting people to take the messages. Like, a lot of the Taylor and Maddie interplay is not, in my opinion, because they had a relationship. It is because they recognize that they are writing this fictional tale together wherein they can motivate people to... We don't like to be lectured. Taylor can get up on a platform and she can lecture about All Too Well a million times. It will never have the same impact as all of the young women and girls who have come up listening to All Too Well and realizing that it's actually embarrassing when an older man is interested in you. It's not the flattering, positive thing that we think it's going to be. We see these things and they tear us apart, you know? And we don't have to go through them. The brain, here's the power of storytelling. The brain is actually really, really bad at telling the difference between real and fake. That's why so many of us get so invested in fiction. These characters that to some degree feel real to us, are real to us. We learn lessons from Taylor's relationships the same way we would learn lessons from our friends having a bad breakup. And because we are consuming that content when we are at our lowest, it is injected in us in a deep core way. And sure, sometimes it does take years or decades to get there. There are a lot of Hetlers that is going to be the case, right? They have this stuff deep down inside them, and then one time they're going to have something trigger in their life, and because they have been hate consuming our content for so long, it is going to motivate them to realize, holy crap, they were right all along. There is this... you know, the opposite of hate isn't love, it's indifference. Hate and love are very, very intensely entwined, and because of that, it is easier to go from a place of hating something to loving it than it is to go from a place of indifference to caring. There's a lot of hate in the world today, but the thing is if people get the right triggers, the right experiences, the right knowledge, and they have the critical thinking skills to process it, they can learn so many lessons that, and that's why I kind of hate the whole cancel culture. Like, obviously there are some people that I think say things that are beyond just misinformed hate. There's some people that are just truly, truly, truly cruel. But I do think if, like, the country is to survive, we need to be able to come to unity. And I think that's a lot of what this podcast is about. Yes, I managed to segue back to the podcast again. I'm a bitch. Oh, God, I'm so good. I really don't give myself nearly enough credit. I think I'm terrible at doing things. Why did I think that? Oh, that's right. Closeting. I spent so many years closeting so many aspects of my personality that I disabled myself, and now I understand why Taylor, like, when people are like, no, she's never gonna, I mean, maybe, but I think she'll kill herself, like, not literally, from a perspective of she will work herself to death putting up, because it's not just one facade, as we see in this video, we'll see in this video if we ever get to it, it's not just one facade. It's a series of different facades. I am going to send a text message to my mother asking her if my bird is okay, and then we're going to get into a little bit more Taylor stuff. I just want to give you guys a little bit of a mental break. Let's take 2 minutes. It is, well, okay, look at your clock right now. We'll go about 2 minutes so you can go pee and get a drink or something like that. How are my birds? Because if the birds are doing okay, because my mom's not well as well. I live with my elderly parents too, so I relate to Taylor a lot on the what is it? Like, parents being sick. That is scary shit, dudes. And you can tell I'm insecure about it because I said dudes. I am way too open about my shit. Oh my God, the moment you all realize this is a performance about the performance Taylor is putting on, and that I think Taylor knows that some of us are capable of this, and I think she's egging us on. She's giving us content, because that's the thing. There are so many things that unfortunately they do better than us, and one of them is getting people, they're good at getting people to watch trash content that is reaction commentary. And debates are actually one of the lowest forms of intelligence. Like, yes, I seem very articulate and I know a lot of things, but I have a number of different text files on my phone that are just me verbally processing. If this means this, then this means this. And I really try very hard to get as much knowledge out of my head as to people, but I'm so insecure about not being good at this because, you know, shame. I just need to, okay, yeah, I figured that out. We'll just do that. The other thing is like, streaming a lot of times is very schedule reliant. I am scared sometimes to just leave this stuff open to general public because I know that I'm going to open myself up to people, like, hate reacting to me. That's, like, one of the things that I hate the most about certain groups. And that makes me very insecure because I know, dude, I am capital T traumatized. Tortured Poets Department was what I was going through while I was also going through, is it EMT? I've been through a lot of therapy, so if the way I describe something doesn't match the acronym I use, it's just because I've been through so much at this point that I don't recall. I can recognize game. She's very deeply traumatized, but she's also been working through it in an amazing way, which I really respect. And I think that's one of the reasons I have a hard time holding a lot of things against a lot of pop stars, because I can see them being deeply traumatized as well. Girl. I'm assuming girl is okay because you have femme in your name, but if I ever, like, again, I'm using the gay girl. Everything is a girl. If I'm singing along to a rap song and I don't want to say the N-word, I say girly because I think in my mind, in my community, that is the equivalent word. I just made karaoke so much better for so many of you. I know. I feel bad because, disabled parents, disabled parrots. I really can't schedule something more than like an hour or two in advance. I can give a general vibe. Like last night, I felt like I had an okay amount of spoons and I was set myself up for bed. Well, yeah, I did. I tried to set myself up for bed. And then you can see me on Blue Sky devolving as I keep having more and more theories fire off in my head. And then I really need one of you, if one of you, I can't pay you for this yet because I'm disabled and I'm living off savings that are very rapidly depleting. But if any of you want to, like, get ideas from this and make them in a format that, like, we can refer back to, a private wiki would be amazing, I think, for a lot of us. Like, I want to theory craft with other people, and that's what leads me to do this. Okay, my birds are fine. We can go back into talking about Taylor, although I'm sorry, the 2-minute break, I kind of talked about stuff. So long as I'm not getting harassed, so long as I'm not being made a mockery of by, certain communities, I will try and keep this as public facing as possible. Worst case scenario, I own the copyright on a lot of it, so I can probably post it on my Substacks or something like that. I post a lot of content in a lot of different places. I am Blue Sky, Tumblr, YouTube is probably the platform that I take most seriously because it's the platform I make money off of. I am a disabled person. I need to survive financially, but I also need to survive psychologically. One of the big issues that I have is that I realize if I really piss off, if Swiftology just sees something like this and goes off on me, it would probably trigger a flare that I wouldn't recover from for a year and a half. And that I can't have that right now. And I can't draw off my parents too much for assistance because they have their own, problems. They are elderly people. We live together so we can kind of try and help take care of each other. But, oh, yeah, I was talking about all of the different places. Blue Sky, Tumblr. Blue Sky is where, like, my most thoughts are. I think I have my most brilliant connections there, personally. If something I think can be explained in text, or if my verbal text document works out well enough, I post it on Tumblr. I have Mile High Brendan's old Discord. It's mine now. It's mostly just a pop music is sapphic, obviously, because the better you are at performing femininity, the better you are going to succeed, both because of the people in the industry behind scenes and also how you're going to be perceived by the greatest number of fans. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I want to try. I need to get better at being perceived. Oh, yeah, I was kind of saying that if, like, somebody really attacked me, that would probably... Oh, yeah, I finished that thought. Okay, sorry. All right, back into Taylor. I tried to give you... I'm going to try and weave around, because I need to give your brain some time to process. So many men have made me feel like I'm disinteresting. I used to do podcasts for years, and... because I got spoken over and ignored and, like, nobody appreciated my jokes. Wow. I'm absolutely realizing that this is therapeutic, and the fact that I'm realizing just how much they fucked me up. Yeah. See, here's the thing, and, this is where I really try to differentiate myself. Pop music, pop culture is art. We don't treat it like that because they're trying to devalue it, but the benefit of it being devalued is that if you're good at it, you can really get some subversive messaging across to people when they're at their, like, most, what's the word? Coincidental. I'm sorry. Sometimes I will be really smart for like 5 minutes and then I'll forget the word coincidence and I feel so dumb. Blue Sky. There is a Gaylor list that if you subscribe to it, you get a lot of good people and then you immediately have a good feed. We have a pretty standing policy of blocking any haters. We don't engage with them so they don't get any dopamine out of arguing with us. So every once in a while you get a comment here or there. If something escapes containment, sometimes we have to, delete it for a moment or whatever, but it is the most accepting space. The thing that I struggle with as a disabled person, I want to make stuff as accessible as possible because I'm a disabled person, and the community really self-shames each other about accessibility, but I have no immune system. I cannot exist in the world or I am going to progressively get more disabled and then die. And I'm not really up for that proposition, so I don't socialize off the internet. So if sometimes I don't do alt text, if sometimes I don't do captions, it is not me trying to disrespect the community. Just understand that I'm at a low ebb at those points. And like, if you have spoons and if you really want to contribute to the community and you're like, oh, I don't really feel like I have a place because I don't have theories, one of the best ways that you can help contribute is kind of documenting a bunch of theories together, and also like kind of just manning the community. Like we need not historians, we need people who are documentarians. I shit, what was I saying? Fuck. Ellum, you're too funny. I completely forgot. Oh, if you have spoons and can do that. Oh, I never call myself a historian because I think that is a very white culture patriarchy loaded term. I call myself a Swiftcraft theorist because it is a craft in that it is both an art and a science, and also interpreting it is both an art and a science. Because here's the thing, they try and make commentary YouTubers and stuff like that material that people consume when their brain is very suggestible late at night. Dude, Shane Dawson screwed me up for a while because I watched his conspiracy theories late at night when Smart Brain was off, and then there were just beliefs in my head that I said in conversations to friends, and they're like, do you really think there's laser beams in California? And I'm like, do you not? And then they're like, why do you think that? And I'm like, Shane Dawson. Archiving is so important. That is why they try to erase us. They're trying to erase our culture. We need to make culture. We need to document culture. If you have been feeling like you don't have a position in this community, or if you have feeling like you don't know where you are in value in this community, document, support. Like, one of the watch time and shares are what most social media cares about, and a lot of algorithms, because they're trying to drum up hate, they direct content to hetlers, and then we get flamed to death, and then we're effed. I worked in IT security for a while. I do have a significant degree of professional knowledge about how algorithms work, although I'm not as up to date on AI, but I can kind of see the impacts. I did technical documentation, which meant that I sat in a lot of developmental meetings, but because I was sitting in all of the meetings, when one department had a problem, I could instantly be like, oh, hey, Department C is working on a project that's going to solve that problem. Or if something like looks like it's going to be going out good, I can be like, wait, there's another update that's coming out next week from this other team, and it's going to conflict with this. They want us divided. Taylor is not going to play in to one side until I think it's going to be a while. I think that might be why she said 16 months. I think she keeps giving us these dates that we are expecting to be that date, because if we realize that we're like 3 years out, we're going to lose the carrot. But we know, take carrot, we're being flagged at. Oh, I love you. If you know dates, I suck at math. I suck at dates. I am very stereotypically gay in that. Okay. I'm going to try... Okay, I think I made the points that I needed to make with that tangent. Let me try and go back into a little bit more scripted content for a couple minutes. Okay, so most of you should know that at a point in this podcast, Taylor mouthed, like, and now cut, I think is what a deaf... I don't know if they're deaf or if they're a hearing impaired. I don't know. I don't remember who it was. I'm not trying to disrespect somebody's like accessibility. I'm never trying to discredit anybody's contributions. I see so much that I just honestly can't recall. And if I really just sat down and tried to attribute every single theory, and the other thing is because there's so many different... A lot of us think that there's one Gaylor community. There are a bunch of different subsegments of the Gaylor community. There are some people that block anybody that's a Gaylor. They have no idea what any of the Carly Kloss theories are right now. Right? There are so many little pockets of the fandom, and I think especially when you can really tell people who have put a lot of work into a theory, and it is a theory that is like their theory, and it is demonstrably their theory, that we should give credit. But like... I came from a pop music is performance art because Joe Calderone, Lady Gaga's drag persona, hit at a very influential time in my life. So I have always viewed the most successful women, and because I'm very obsessed with women like Katharine Hepburn and Marlene Dietrich, who just masterfully existed in these spaces and like used the power in these spaces to kind of just have as much influence as they can. So, oh god, I got on a tangent again. I'm not going to apologize for tangents because I'm sorry if it's hard to follow. But I have come to a lot of the same conclusions from different directions. Like, because I lived through like the tail end of the New Romantics, and then I lived through like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and saw them pitted together and saw how the industry destroyed them and see how they're doing similar things to other people in the industry now. That's just... there's no real point where I became a Gaylor, because there wasn't a point really since college, which was before Taylor was really famous, that I ever thought there was a chance that any of them were like, you have to prove straightness to me if you're a celebrity. I think we could see a tour, but I think she's going to be using... I honestly don't know, because I do worry about how safe a tour could be, right? Okay, so when Taylor says cut before the podcast glitches, that tells me that Taylor is directing this and acting to this. There is a lot of purpose in what Jason does at the beginning, and I'm going to explain that in just a second, but he introduces her, I believe, as like the singer, songwriter, producer, and director, right? So we have the singer, who's the showgirl, who people call Barbie Taylor or Ditzy Taylor. We have the poet, which most of us TTBD Taylor, her true inner feelings. We have the producer, who is making the business deals and business moves and is highly capable in that regard. And then we have the director, who is directing all of these characters and the podcast as a whole. I'm going to pull up... I'm going to give you guys a couple... I'm going to try and just babble for a couple minutes, because I want to know where y'all are at with that. No, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yes, at any time that you can share stuff. There are some people in this community that hate self-promotion, and I'm not trying to promote myself. I just realize that this movement needs to be centered around people, and not just one people. Like, these are, like I said, there's so many different facets of the community that are at so many different stages. And like, we're not explicitly opposed. Like, even if we have theories that go divergent ways, it's because we're seeing the opposite side of the game. You know, people are going to recognize different parts of the game at different times. There's often something to be said about how queer people interact with the arts versus how... Yes! Yes! That is a good... Maria, I love you. You're so cool. Oh my gosh. Where am I at? Oh, that's right. I'm looking for I get distracted really easy. I need to find the thread. This is going to be repeat again. If I repeat things, it's not because I'm trying to be boring. It's because I think I've given you more context, and I want you to consider it in that context, you know? God damn you, Taylor, for making a liar out of me. I've been saying TTBD is her magnum opus, and now my dumbass is thinking it's her podcast. Jesus fucking Christ, that woman, I swear to God. I think we're going to see more performance out of people that are on Taylor's payroll. We saw... Taylor Swift has two main vehicles of communicating on social media. The Taylor Swift account. Most of us know that's Taylor Swift the brand. We also have Taylor Nation, which is probably run by a combination of her PR team, and I honestly suspect there might be a writer. She probably does have other people that help her write social, and I would die to know who those people are. Good. You guys are giving me a lot of reassurance. One of the hardest things about streaming is that until you have people that care about you, you are talking to a void and you have no feedback on whether you're good or not. And when you already have a lot of shame because the people that you've podcasted with in the past have made you feel bad about yourself, Okay, so Taylor Nation, who is probably her PR, probably a writer, social media people, things of that nature. She has way more employees than we realize. She is a leader of a team. Like, I think people think that if her ideas aren't wholly of her brain, that they're not valuable, or that it's like it makes her stupid. But like, and then there's people who think that if her whole popularity is just PR, or sorry, if they think her whole popularity is 100% justified and 0% PR, they're ignoring the fact that there is so much work and so much, like, her leading her team. And I think the reason that she mentioned her entire family in this podcast was really to stress the fact that, like, her family has been a team since she was a child. They are a family business. Her mother worked as, I think she did like she was vice president of marketing. Please feel free to correct me if I say anything that's incorrect. I don't always remember 100% of the details. If you saw Sherlock, you know how most of his ideas were like 99% correct and then you fuck one detail? I do occasionally fuck a detail. Yes, we just saw the tour dancer say last night. Taylor Nation recently updated their bio, and I think it's really important that we consider that, because she confirmed one of my theories. I was fucking shitting myself watching this podcast because I had so many theories that played out in like the best possible way. Wait, Taylor Nation, where does Taylor Nation, is it fucking X that they, the only reason I have an X account is because she fucking puts so much content there, but I think you all understand now that it's because people on that side need to have the same cultural experiences and yada yada yada. What am I doing? Looking for Taylor Nation, and I'm typing Taylor Swift. That's why I'm not getting what I expect. Stage crew for Taylor Swift 13 is what their bio says on Twitter now. What that tells me is that they are acknowledging that that is the behind the scenes and the assistants, the people that she leads, that are behind that. I believe that it is probably fair game that any employee, like, these dancers are any dancer that is not currently assigned to some other celebrity's tour is still on Taylor's payroll. Their value as a performer, a performer's life tends to be very short, especially as a dancer, because your body breaks. So you need to be concerned about your value. I very much suspect that any dancers that are not currently working on some other project continue to remain on Taylor's payroll. And I do think that we could probably see a tour somewhere soon out of it. Yes, it's gonna break the Taborita collab is, oh, I love Sabrina, because the thing about Sabrina, what is Sabrina? Sabrina is for Taylor's younger fans. Sabrina does very similar performance art, but it is targeted at the problems and the lessons that they need to consume at their age. They are going through some of their earliest breakups. They are learning lessons from that. I believe that the Olivia beef is 100% fabricated. There was a lot of pop star beef, and yes, that gets people interested. It keeps people invested. Gossip getting people into the content. It's the age-old time. Any strategy that I say, like, a lot of these strategies have been in place for decades, if not hundreds of years. Sabrina is doing very similar performance art at an easier to digest level. Her relationship with Barry Keogh that lasted 1 year to the day, I think it was the very next day that her Christmas special came out. It happened during a time when he had a movie that came out that had him in a very queer role. He's still trying to keep himself as branded as a, you know, I don't think he's out. If I'm ever incorrect on somebody's status, it's just because it changes from time to time. Olivia is to subvert the trope of Taylor Swift. That is for the not like the other girls of the like Gen Alpha, Gen Z generation. Yeah. No, it's not that Sabrina can't write. Sabrina is writing for an audience that hasn't had the same level of experiences. She's writing for an audience that isn't as interested in cerebral, and she's writing for an audience that, since No Child Left Behind, has been getting progressively and less art thing. I think it's important to remember, it's very tempting to hate on people because they are not at the same level where we're at. But the thing is, they have not been given the same opportunities. A lot of us are, later in our lives. I think because it's just avatars and text on paper sometimes, or on screen sometimes, that we don't necessarily realize how young a lot of the people that we're working with are. Thank you so much, Zuby. Like I said, I'm probably gonna try and leave this whole thing up, and I encourage y'all to listen to it again if you like it. So I think coming from that perspective, where Sabrina is, she is targeting an audience that doesn't necessarily have the same advantages that Taylor's audience has had, especially educational. One of the things that is very painfully evident to me, and it scares me, and is the primary motivation for why I do what I do. And this is Aaron, this is not performance, I'll give you that hint. The reason that I do what I do, this 100% earnestness, is because I am terrified by the lack of media literacy when people are not being given enough access to education, and decreasingly are going to reduce access to education because they don't want people to be smart enough to move up in the world anymore. They don't want their kids to have competition, you know? And thank you. I really appreciate that. I admit Sabrina's music is not always 100% for me. But Taylor and Sabrina act as bridges back and forth with one another. You have those like younger Swifties, especially the ones that are getting into that 13 age, that age where they're very highly interested in relationships, and they so those kids don't have to go through the same kind of, bull crap. Yeah, but I think if Taylor makes you feel things and Sabrina doesn't, it's because you've probably already learned those lessons, or those lessons haven't been applicable to your life. Taylor, the thing that I think she's the best at is, I think the thing Taylor is the best at is writing things in such a way that people can apply them to their lives in a lot of different ways at a lot of different stages. Like, as somebody that has been a fan of Taylor for many years now, like, just recognizing that the lessons that I was getting from her music were progressing with her. But at the same time, she always has to write a song like So High School, where a lot of the metaphors are incredibly obvious, and it's obviously targeted at a specific set of the fandom. Like, if there's a Sabrina song that you don't like, if there's a Taylor song that you don't like, it's usually because that song isn't targeted to something that's applicable to your experience. Like, yes, I think there's a level of, like, auditoriness that, like, drives us to a song. There's catchiness. A lot of songs, I believe, function something as mantras, especially if we go in a room with thousands of other people and we scream, sing along to Fuck the Patriarchy. I slipped into performance, up to you to guess where. You haven't paid attention, or you're not at the stage of life yet. Like, a lot of us that get it because we were hurt, and we were hurt young. And I do, to some degree, take heart in the naivety I see in a lot of easier or in a lot of other perspectives. Like, a lot of, when you really step back and look at it, a lot of these perspectives are coming from a place of naivety, right? They're coming from a place of, like, these people are ingenues. I think the reason why Taylor is pushing the concept of an ingenue, and even using the word, I believe Taylor's bringing more and more attention to the performance that she's putting on. A lot of women that are, like, getting into, like, their late teens, early 20s, I would say, you start to fancy yourself as an ingenue. And especially as we're kind of realizing how much the decades magnify each other, and I think that is, like, a deliberate media strategy, is for that to happen, Question. I could talk about this. I'm not sure how long I can trust birds to behave. If you're liking the current discussion on hand, you know what? I have a different idea. I changed my mind. I'm sorry if this disappoints anybody. I can't please everyone, but I think it would be valuable for me to leave this up for a day or three, depending on what this takes out of me, and let people sit and process it, and then we'll watch it together. Because, like, the documents that I'm going through right now, these are things that are, like, mindsets that I want you to use while you're processing all of this. That is also true. I do think Sabrina is very clear. See, this is why I think it's so funny that, like, I don't know, people dog on Sabrina for being, like, slutty or whatever, because it's like, is her audience predominantly guys? Then who is the performance for? People are so funny, and it's always people that are uncomfortable with like where they are in their own stage of their personal journey and acceptance. And I think that's why, like, the reason there's so much hate behind this is because so many people involved have shame that the trauma about is unresolved. You know what? You know what? You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Because here's the thing. I will be able to do this more if you will allow me to just flow with the performance. If I have to start and stop the performance, I do admit that takes more energy. The way Taylor was slipping between, like I said, showgirl, producer, director, songwriter, or writer, whatever. We know when his hair was cut because that was at the beginning of training. That was not that long ago. This is, I don't think it's 100% scripted, but I do think that they had a lot of talking points. Dita talking about her audience as women in the LGBTQIA. Yes, more women are attracted to women than women are ready to realize. And like, I know I have a complicated relationship with this idea that all homophobes are just, ashamed. But there's a reason why Grindr crashes every time the GOP is in town. I will let you make your own conclusions from the evidence I have provided. I really don't care where you fall. One thing that frustrates me, like, people will try and go to war with me in the comments, and I'm like, I don't really care. Like, I do. It's not that I only care about supportive comments, right? It's just like, if you are not at the stage of your journey with Taylor's music to be where I'm at yet, that's not a problem. We're not on the same stage. Like, we haven't had identical lives. There's no pro or con to that. And I think because of the way society can be so polarized, and because hating each other and believing one thing is always going to be better than the other is so profitable for algorithmically driven things, and everything in the world has been driven by algorithms for years, and most people don't realize it. Like, I do hope Taylor doesn't overwork herself. I do. I don't know how she does. Now, in fairness, what I will say, as a person in a disabled body who has lived at a lot of different financial states in my life, the one thing that I will say is that the more money you have, like, if somebody came out to my house every day and gave me a nutrient IV and gave me a sponge bath and gave me an ice bath and gave me a massage, like, the more money you have, the more access to treatments you have. When I was working in IT and I was making good money, I used to have a nurse come out every week and give me an IV. That was the only way I could survive. But here's the thing. One of the ways that algorithms suppress marginalized people is by basically censoring topics in the name of children. Like, child safety and is very frequently used against things that make the world more accessible and more equitable. I mean, Taylor, they're in totally different parts of the... You're comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing somebody who just graduated from beauty school versus somebody who has 20 years of experience. That's not a fair comparison. I very much wonder, like, I mean, it may just be, I think one of the things that is most harmful to your body is to put it through situations that it doesn't want to be in. Long story short, I do think a lot of people's health issues are because of the fact that they don't have the opportunity to get the exercise because they're being worked to death, right? And I think Taylor does work herself to death on a different level. That said, I found it very interesting that she's, and I feel like she was being earnest in this. I don't feel like this was Tay Lyer speaking, which, by the way, I have been saying for months now that there was a pastel or light mode Tay Lyer outfit, and nobody's really vibed with that theory, and this proves it. But that is also very heavily Tay director. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And especially because a lot of the, what I consider director Taylor is a persona that very much wears a lot of similar clothing to Marlene Dietrich, to Katharine Hepburn, things of that nature. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, Lord. Okay, so I am going to, again, repeat one of the things that I said, because just in case anybody has not read. Oh, you know what? Actually, this is fun. I'm gonna read you a couple of highlights. Well, let's do a couple. We've been talking about dense, heavy topics. I have been thinking about doing videos about some of my like shit tweets, basically, or shit bloops. Um. So let me go over a couple of them so we can have a little bit of a light moment for. Yeah, I mean, different people have different strengths, right? You can't really compare, and our society very much wants to make everything in competition with everything else. Again, it goes back to algorithms. Competition makes people argue about things. I think it's one of the points they pointed out, like both Taylor and Travis's competitiveness, because there are a lot of people that are competitive and will kind of relate to that aspect of things. Khaki pants is work mode for real. Yes. Yes, and I like that she dresses more comfortably on that. Yeah, like, pretty much, I would say every celebrity that is a household name or close to household name is doing some level of persona management. I don't believe it is always or ever as complex as Taylor. But like Ronnie Radke, he's a really good example from the other side of things. Like, his reputation is being the dick. And yes, there are things that he has done that I don't find agreeable, that I don't like, you know? But when you like really dig into a lot of things that he's done, like, he's won a lot of the court cases against him, like whether it's hard to tell if this goes into like his persona as a bad boy, but like it sells in a time when like very few outlets are doing like in a time when very few outlets are doing like very few music acts are selling a lot of tickets. He's still selling a decent amount of tickets. He had a couple of tour dates that got canceled, but it wasn't because of lack of ticket sales. It was because they were having them perform like 5 days a week, and at this age his body can't handle it anymore. Yes, that is the whole thing. The whole point of the life of a showgirl is going to be to point out the fact that ever since there has been like TV and video and radio and social media and all of these different mechanisms, ever since there has been a platform for people to make money with arts, there has also been a growing understanding that like the more people that support somebody financially, the more artistic freedom they have. Like, that's why Taylor and Beyonce are doing the things that they're doing with their tours, because they are billionaires, you know? I think I forgot a point. If you cared about the point that I just forgot, let me know. If not, I'm going to go into my bloops for just a couple seconds. So I had some good thoughts. TikTok just auto-captioned me saying New Heights as New Heist, and mind blown. I keep wanting to make a t-shirt that says homophones before homophobes, homophone being words that sound alike. And I think Taylor likes words that sound alike, and words that if you speak quickly sound similar. I have a very hard time saying New Heights, and I think there is some level of I very much think I'm very curious how long Taylor has been a producer and a director of New Heights. It was only acknowledged this episode, but I'm like, bitch, there's no way you're not making money off this. And if you're making money off of this, you have creative control of this, bitch. God, I love her. Here's the thing, like, when you really start to understand how much game she has, it's just like, I don't know. Oh my God. This is a no-hate zone. We're not gonna hate on people. We're not going to hate on people. Like, everybody is trying to survive and do their best in the industry. Like yes, I don't love Jay-Z. I will admit that. I don't love Kanye. I don't love Diddy. But like Taylor said on the podcast, the things that you spend your time on, that is your day. That is your life. Like, those haters that are spending all of that time on Gaylor shit just to hate on it, they're being Gaylors themselves, because that's what's in their brain constantly. We are in their, that's why rent free in your head is such a thing. Your energy is invaluable. Attention economy. Everybody, here's the thing. everybody focuses on what Taylor gets out of people financially, and those people are looking at the wrong side of the coin. It is an attention economy that is concealed beneath the financial economy, because the richest people in the world don't understand the attention economy that well. So that was how the people that wanted to make money off the attention economy made it financially a good proposition to the people that are not there yet. But what you spend your time on, that is your life. That is what's in your brain. Like, that is why a lot of times if I get a video that it just starts to get a lot of negative comments, I'm not spending my time on that. And I hate, like, again, if there's something that I've done that has really genuinely hurt somebody and I need to be called to task on it, sure, absolutely. But if it's just like a freaking misunderstanding, like the level of psychological torture that we expect anybody who is in the public, anybody that has any level of fame or clout, and like that's the thing, like the difference between clout and fame in my opinion is like, well, nah, scratch that. I was going a place and then I realized it didn't make sense. But like, you know, everybody is fighting for attention. Taylor, yeah, sure, she's good at getting money out of us, which makes rich men understand why they should invest in her. But, like, also, at the same time, what have we been doing for days? What have we been doing for days? You know why she said LASIK? Do you know why she mentioned LASIK in that stupid podcast? Because my body is dead and my mind is alive! Sorry, I'm being dramatic. Okay, so we are going to have to make an agreement as a community, because I don't want to be parasocial, but I also do want to have an element of community. People like debating with me because debating with me is fun, but that uses up a lot of my energy and I'm disabled. Like, I can't. If you're just disagreeing with me because it's fun to disagree with me, that has to be a mutual, like, thing. Like, if this is a Strange Aeons and Muppet Joker situation where we agree to come together in a debate or something like that as a friendly thing and not, like, anything, like, if I know that I'm safe and protected in my own community, that is 100% fine. Yes, her internal rhymes game is so top tier. She's so hot. Like, she's so smart and it's so hot. And, like, half the reason I didn't do a lot of video content about her for years, like, I've been having theories about Taylor for years, admittedly, but I didn't do any video content for many, many moons, because, embarrassed over how gay I look when I talk about her. Like, here's the thing, when you make videos of yourself that you put into the world, the reason you don't see this very often is because I am so embarrassed by how stupid and gay I look. It's not about trying to be, yes, perfection. And actually, one of the reason that, like, cancel culture and this, like, idea of moral and conceptual purity is so big is because it keeps the crabs fighting in the barrel, right? We will, like, it goes to back what I said about accessibility. Accessibility is always going to be a concern that is most relatable to other disabled people. But also, we have this, you need to make every piece of content that you make so accessible, every piece of content, which it's a lot of work, especially nowadays when you can't exist and have any level of, like, success without, it's not just having one internet persona nowadays. You have to have your Twitter, you have your all your different things, right? Perfection pigeonholes people. Prevention keeps people from success. Not prevention. What TTPD was Taylor getting over her need to be perfect and perceived as perfect. She wanted to have that perfect album. And then she's like, okay, I've satisfied that desire. Now I want to be just messy. I just want to be myself. I want to ruin. Here's the thing. I was a bad perfectionist. You know how I fixed it? I had a flop era. I had a single year of my life where I was really disabled, so I couldn't really do anything that well. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do things bad. I'm gonna paint, and if it's ugly, it's ugly. It's still therapeutic. It's still a good use of my time. Like, I think the internet has also made us believe that if we don't have a product that's worth showing off, that art is not valuable. It's also made us devalue a lot of things like analysis and commentary as not being art, but it is, because here's the thing. You are putting so much of yourself, like your perspective, your mindset, your viewpoint on what you're discussing when you do commentary is heavily shaped by who you are as a person. And to succeed in this realm, you do need to put on a performance. But here's the thing. The media and like PR people and things like that have a justified reason to make people want to think PR isn't going on nowadays. Like, there are a lot of people that would make think, oh, there's no use for PR anymore. Everybody has social media accounts and stuff like that. Do you know how fucking hard it is to update like 1,000,000 social media accounts? You have a PR strategy. You have a PR team. If you're going to spend so much time on something like that when your time and your intention is literally money, no, you know? Yes, group project. This is the biggest group project in the world history. I think Taylor is also trying to show off. She can wear every hat. She is going to be, when we look back at Taylor, she is going to be a Marlene Dietrich. She is going to be a Katharine Hepburn. She is going to be a Jane Mansfield. When we look back at all of these women who kind of leverage these different personas as like being masculine, but masculine in a hot way so men weren't being too threatened, but also simultaneously doing both sides the way Marlene Dietrich and Katharine Hepburn also did. And then you have the like full bimbo mode that people like Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield, and nowadays you have Paris Hilton at the very beginning of when I said showgirl earlier as one of the personas that Taylor is, like when at the beginning of the podcast where she's acting like ditzy and talking about being in the kitchen and not understanding football, like that's a mode. Okay, hold on a second. I need to take a drink. Wait, the sun theory. You know what? Probably. So everything that's being done right now is because I believe what I think the end game is she's going to give us TS12, and in giving us TS12, more and more people will be aware of what the game is. But I think she does it in such a way that you can't understand it unless you have also lived through a lot of the life experiences or known somebody who does to have empathy to that. Then I think what she's going to do is some level of, it's going to be multimedia. I don't think it's just going to be an album. I don't think it's just going to be a movie. I think those theories are going to happen, but I think that there's going to be, the ultimate flex of planning is being able to say, I have been planning everything all my life. Here is everything I ever made. In that TS12 document that she had on that, on her website, there were a bunch of things that were listed at the bottom of that. Let me pull up the letter really quick. That letter was obviously incredibly important. Like, her biggest life achievement is getting her rights back. Okay? This is a document that she tried to get a lot into, but she gave entire lines. And, okay, so first off, she gave an entire line and the space around it to all of the music I've ever made now belongs to me. That gets like 3 lines in and of itself. That's her biggest priority. Then, all my music videos, all the concert films, the album art and photography, the unreleased songs, the memories, the magic, the madness, every single era, my entire life's work. Her project is going to be all of that. I think she's going to have something like maybe Feminine Rage, or maybe it's going to be called Taylor's Version, or maybe it's going to be called the Eras Tour, or Eras of Taylor, or I don't know. I think it could be any one of a number of trademarks that she probably has. I think some of her trademarks are deceptions, but much like the successful women of old, like Marlene Dietrich and Katharine Hepburn and people like that, were good in so many different disciplines, right? They sang, they danced, they were good on screen. They a lot of them financed a lot of projects, and those projects were financially beneficial. Like, that's what the big higher ups are at. If you can prove that you can make other people's projects financially successful, that makes rich men respect you. Yeah, I think the movie is going to be incredible. I think there's going to be so much. I think we're going to see a lot more behind the scenes. I think we're going to see a lot of the stuff she couldn't release. I think she may even do a little bit of commentary about her. I think this podcast, it's either going to be one of two things, and I'm not sure which I would like more. Either this podcast is a sign that we're going to get more direct communication with this, because I'm going to go into this in a second. Put a pin in this. like, so much of this, oh crap, I said put a pin in it and then I forgot it. Okay, so we were talking, so the podcast. Every time she has tried to market one of her projects, the media has kind of not really taken her seriously, up to the point of being openly hostile. And like Folkmore, one of her albums that she clearly likes a lot, she came out of the gate and was talking about how she was a storyteller and how she was writing parables and all of these things that, like, I keep reminding people, like, these are obviously stories that people are supposed to internalize, be drawn in by the gossip about Taylor, and then internalize the message. Right? Do 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 do. Where was I? I think I am getting a little tired, so I think I'm probably gonna wrap soon. But let me tell you guys one of the things that I know I wanted to say. And if you're rewatching this after the fact and you're like, oh my god, Aaron trained off on this idea and I was really totally into it, I just put it in the comments or something like that, or you know what, actually try it. If you're a mutual or something like that, reach out to me directly, because like I said, I really can't spend time on negative comments, so once the tide turns, I'm not watching them anymore. Wrap soon. Sorry. Okay, so next stream I'm going to let you guys digest this. I'm going to let you guys have the same perspective that I'm coming from, and so we can all kind of be more equal. We can be a community, a little bit of a delayed community, but you know what, shit happens. This is all the stuff that I want you to keep in mind rewatching when we rewatch New Heights. New Heights next time. I'm going to read my philosophy about the first 15 minutes of New Heights, because realistically, the way I yab, that's all we're going to be able to watch the first stream. New Heights was a masterclass in managing how others perceive you. By releasing to a trusted one's podcast, you have complete creative control over not just how your message is sent, but also how it's received. By having two well-respected men hyper up this way gives initial validation to Taylor. They like her, we like her. Monkey see, monkey do. Yeah. I think you missed the beginning when I was like, I cannot be reliable on schedule because disabled. I would say put on notifications and follow me on Blue Sky, because those are going to be the two main methods that I'll notify people for. So the podcast begins with Jason going over many of Taylor's achievements. Their audience is watching too. It's not just Swifties that she's trying to win over. Sports fans are an audience that respects awards, achievement, and athleticism. They've been primed to value those. The audience sees men they trust respect Tay. They respect her too. But it is a tenuous respect at first, and Taylor has to play things very carefully. Excuse me. High-achieving men, even feminists, are very often threatened by high-achieving women. They recognize that she's doing the same steps, backward in heels. So Taylor immediately puts herself in the kitchen in her story. She's pulling a Paris Hilton and being hot, domestic, and ditzy, and into her man's masculine traits. She tells an anecdote of being in the kitchen, baking and cheering on his podcast from the outside. They like her now. They want her now. They respect Travis for landing her. And then she shifts. One moment she's ditzy, the next she's speaking about an era of her expertise. She's talking about pulling off an incredibly successful financial endeavor in both her tour and masters. These men respect her now. Then she explains how awful the current industry is for the audience. While she makes the case that all artists deserve their rights management, Jason and Travis keep supporting what she's saying. They are audience inserts, asking Taylor the questions the audience wants to know, the things we might not understand as lay people. That's just like the first 15 to 20 minutes. And as I said yesterday, it's wielding white male power in masterful form. We'll do a little bit of a cool down for like 15 minutes, unless I understand that streams are subject to end at any time if my mother needs me in the house, just because that's how my life has to be. She has not messaged me and said that they're being annoying or that they're dead or anything, and I'm sure that she would have told me those things. Oh, you just found... Hi! You are awesome, by the way. I understand that my theories about Taylor are very different than what most people's theories about Taylor are, and if you don't jive with me and you don't know, like, where we're at, you know, people tend to be mean when they disagree, and I hate it, you know? You just watched the part? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. What am I doing? Fuck, I'm getting tired, you can tell. As a European Swiftie, I just watched the part where she was announcing, yes. Oh, you're 16. Jeez. One of my concerns with being on the internet is that children won't like me very much, and it's kind of good to know. I'm sorry, not to say that you're a child. I'm 42, so the age gap is there. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I absolutely respect you, and I think your perspective is very good too. I think, you know what? I sometimes worry about kids these days. You give me a little bit more faith. It really does. As someone who, I went to school in like the 80s and 90s, and my parents were in middle class by the time I went to high school. Since I got bullied in a lot through middle school for being a giant nerd, and everybody knew I was gay but me, they pulled me out of school and put me in Catholic school, and that, it was hurtful in its own sort of way. Things we can't necessarily talk about on YouTube. Oh my gosh, thank you. I really appreciate it. You know what, it's nice to have this as an option, because I'm going to say something that's probably going to blow a lot of your minds. Okay. Everything that I said today, that is maybe like 5% max. And then I have all of these like videos that I've filmed that I don't have the energy to edit. Like, I am in this quandary when I don't make enough money to have an editor, but I don't have enough energy. You know, performing on camera is a lot, and then I usually have to take like a day off. It depends. It depends like how hard I go and how I'm feeling and how well I hydrate and things like that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I often say that I don't know how old people perceive me as. I do have a lot of light on my face right now, though, because I don't know what I did to the settings on my my pod camera. Okay. Elder millennials stay winning. One of the things about me is that I started a YouTube channel. My first YouTube channel was when I was in film school, and I like kind of got started with stuff like that, and then Gamergate happened. And because, if you're not familiar with Gamergate, it was basically women were saying their opinions about games on the internet, and games that, you know, men didn't think women should have opinions about. And there was a small but incredibly violent and toxic group of people that did everything in their power to hurt those women. And I recognize my comparative lack of power in things, and I always feel like I need to be incredibly careful over what I say. 12 likes, yes. Yes. Oh man, nobody said anything about my birds, which is good. There's something else that I was gonna say. What else did I want to say? Oh, I was just saying about how shame plus just like the violence against women especially. And what was I saying? I had a good point. Oh, Gamergate. So I went to film school from like 2003 to 2007, I think. Don't quote me on that. If I ever misremember dates, it's just because I'm old. It's not because I'm trying to be deceitful. I will say, I will never make you go down a numerology pathway because I suck at numbers. That's for other people in this community. Hey! Yeah, I think a lot of us are very similar age, and a lot of us have gone through similar experiences. It really seems like there are a lot of us that we kind of were going through our gay awakening and using Taylor's music. Like, one of the ways people use media is because, like I said, there is so much shame around so many things in our culture, and because of that, it's very hard for us to confront directly. I have a small frame for this whole thing, and it's just been me talking. Oh, shit. Oh, this recording is worthless. Oh, well. I'm so silly sometimes. That really hurt me. If I'm seeming a little, I am getting tired, but also this is just stuff that's kind of hard to talk about. I recognize that when you talk about your trauma on the internet, you give people space to hurt you. And one of the first ways that I was hurt on the internet was by people, the man who was significantly older than me. You do the math. He used to send me to, if you're a millennial, you'll remember Rotten.com and Steak and Cheese. And if I wanted him to teach me how to program. I wasn't even like attracted to him like that because I'm gay, and I realize that now. But I desperately wanted to leverage what I could from him, and he was a good programmer. And this was back in like 1997. I did not have access to programming lessons as a 14-year-old in 1997, and I would have to earn them by like watching different videos. And if you remember those, I did see taste. You know what? I want to talk about that. If give me 5 minutes. If I don't come back to talking about Tay growing up, you are welcome to yell at me. I really, really, really wanted to. Like I said at the top, I went to school for electronic media and film. I realized I couldn't be a cinematographer and a director, but I saw the world where I could do film stuff. And like YouTube, I recognized was going to be, I knew it was going to blow up. Like, as somebody that was going through those lessons and understanding those lessons, and all my instructors were so excited about it. And it was also at a time when previously cameras were very expensive and you needed P9 reels. You needed actual reels. Like, the reason I didn't go to film school, I could have gone to USC. The reason I didn't go to USC is because when you're a student there, you have to pay for your Panavision film. And it was like $800 a reel. Do you hear how verbose I am? I would have wasted so much freaking... This is $800 in 2003. So inflation, a lot more now. A lot more now. So then the recession happened, and then, you know... Oh, wait, wow, I jumped ahead in the story because I think I blocked out a little my trauma. Okay, sorry, if that seems confusing, I jumped from 97 to 2003. Just gonna have to understand that there are a couple years that I don't always connect together. Let me talk about Taylor for a couple minutes. So I was an adult the entire time I knew about Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift, the reason that she is what she is because she was prepared in a way. Her mother understood marketing. Her dad understood finances. Her and her brother were really good at taking lessons from them. As a family unit, they very much work together. And that is one of the reasons that they are so successful. Why Taylor Swift, the brand incorporated, or whatever her business is so successful, right? Taylor didn't even have an album out. And I was watching news clips of her because she was being sold as like this next big thing. Like, she was able to impress like Toby Keith, and was Toby Keith? There's a Tim McGraw. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm really bad with names when I get to this point in my day. So I apologize if I say the wrong name. That guy from country music really took a shine in her. She got a development deal, and like while she was working on her album, she was on the news. We saw video of her at school writing songs, singing songs, all of these things. That is fair. She's really good looking today. Or what, that day, whenever that was filmed. I wish I would have gotten Girlhood with her. I think I would have turned out better. I hated her at first. Little known fact about Erin is that I was born on September 13th, and because of that, 13 was my thing, and like it was weird. Like my 13th birthday was on Friday the 13th, and one of the kids at school was so afraid of that he kicked me down the steps. Like, I got beaten up for that. And I now understand that one of the things that she did is she, like, reclaimed Weird Girl as cool, which is just, like, so masterful. Like, the way her strategy has evolved the entire time, like, the way her PR has evolved the entire time she's had a career and things like that is just fascinating. We didn't do a lot of video back then. So back before YouTube, I had a thing that was called a Moblog. I had a phone that like, it had a little keyboard and it flipped open and then you could take pictures with it. And I thought it was really cool. Like these tiny pictures that were no bigger than the view of me in the screen right now and no better quality of that. I would post that as though it was like a, you know, a professional picture of the Grand Canyon taken with an amazing camera. I, in a way, Taylor like lived a similar dream to me, and I've been wearing these things and I don't need to. What am I doing? Although actually, it is kind of good for the autism, I'm not gonna lie. Now I understand it. Crap. Hold on. I don't usually talk when I have headphones on. I usually just listen to music, so it's never... I don't feel nearly as self-conscious about myself taking up space when I have headphones on. I have been told I was loud all my life. All my life. Oh my gosh, YouTube! I think YouTube was simultaneously one of the best and worst things, because because if you have parents, if you don't have parents or you don't have friends in your life to teach you lessons, and you want to learn something, you can learn things in a way that just wasn't frankly available. Like, I had to go to a library and get a physical book, and if that library didn't have the physical book, they needed to order it from another library that was 50 minutes down the road. Video was TV. If your family was poor, you had like maybe 20 channels. If your family was middle class or above, you had cable, which you had like a 50. When I was 14 years old and we got that 53 channel cable, I had MTV and I had Nickelodeon at their peak for the first time. I understand why so many people get so nostalgic about the past, because there were so many things that were great about my childhood. Like, there were so many things, but also, holy crap, was I put in some unsafe situations, and I'm shocked that I'm still alive. Like for most of my childhood, the video games that I played were either all text, like there would be, it was like writing a story with somebody else, and they would write a little bit of a story and you would write back. Or it was like not even 8-bit design. I was lucky that Dad worked in IT, so I got computers early, and so I understand computers and how computer systems work and how I would leverage computer systems. And most of the times when I analyze Taylor, I don't analyze her from the perspective of what I think Taylor would do based on the evidence that I have about her. I think about it more from a perspective of what I would do if I had access to everything. Like, she can do anything she wants. Oh my gosh, logo in a sports channel? I'm so lucky. Even once we got the 50th channels, we had... Okay, do you remember when your, like, neighbor would have cable and then your dad... Actually, I don't know if this is a crime. My friend would go over to their neighbor who had cable because they had more money, and they would just, it was a physical cable through the, so we would just put a splitter. My friend would just put a splitter, and then my friend had cable that they didn't have to pay for. But even if you did have cable, you had that, like, all of the good channels were pay-per-view. So I watched Logo, like, through black bars. Oh yes, TGIF. Oh gosh, so many good memories. That was some good times. I have been going for just shy of 2 hours. I want people to be able to consume all of this within the next couple of days before I can do this again. Keep an eye on me. Like I said, I'm a number of different places. Platforms penalize you if you promote yourself, so be the smart little Swifties that you are. I very frequently link to myself at various places, just not always. I can't watch a movie because my attention span is so bad. I love movies too, and that's sad. When I do watch a movie, it has to be something that I was in on, that I really liked. Because I was on a podcast where you just talk about bad movies for a while, and that kind of killed me. I am going to do, like, maybe 2 more minutes of chatter, so... just to kind of get any last couple of chats. Thank you. I'm really glad that you've enjoyed it. It really... One of the things that people don't give artists and art credit enough is the importance of the audience. Because if there's no audience, you don't have anything to vibe off of. Just throwing art into the void is one thing. When you have people that are responding and you get that reaction and you get that fuel, it just allows you to create on a whole different level. And it's such a fascinating interplay. Yes, dude, I love the Eras play. Yeah, I said Eras, well, the Eras play is what I call it in my mind. There's definitely a narrative that's happening. I think the songs are in a specific order. I'm just gonna do a couple of my random other theories because, like I said, I only put like 5% of what I know about things on the internet. Nobody knows what a lot of my theories are. I believe that the anthology of TTPD in reverse track order is Taylor's true story, starting with the manuscript. The manuscript, she explains her first couple of relationships in the industry, and she explains how they hurt her and why it was, that she was so hurt that she could only, sleep in her mother's bed. I think there were probably performative elements of those relationships, but I believe that, you know, they're not the same level that the more recent ones have been. GPT-3, no. ChatGPT is not, dude. Okay, ChatGPT is kind of lying to you. It doesn't really give you, like, new novel information. It just grabs information from a variety of different sources and cobbles them together. And sometimes, like, there was a guy who was looking to reduce salt in his diet, and he was told to eat fertilizer instead or something like that by ChatGPT. So please be careful what you use ChatGPT for. I thought I was talking about something good. Oh yeah, so the manuscript. It was kind of about how she came across the idea of scripting her own public narrative. Let me get the track order. I'm just gonna kind of fire off about this because this is a good theory, and the people who are really clever and stay till the end, they can get the great theories. The ones that I have said this theory before, it just has not been taken too seriously by a lot of people. Because I think the time when I had these theories was kind of before people had time to process. Okay, so manuscript, then Robin. I think that's a lot of her early life. I think that's before she's famous. I think that's establishing who she was before the industry. The Bolter, I think, is her teenhood. I think it is some of her struggles with the relationships and the fact that she was immediately after a lot of like purity culture stuff in the industry. Then you have Peter. I think Peter is the disintegration of one of her earliest real relationships, and I think based on what happened with Peter, that forced her to go back and if that, I think there have been a number of times when she has considered being her real self and stopping performing only to go back to the performance. Cassandra actually could be a number of things. I think it's probably the album. I think she was on the verge of exposing how much artifice is in the industry, and the industry makes a lot of money off of artifice, so it doesn't want to do that. The Prophecy is, I think, her realizing that, continuing to maintain separate personas is going to be, yes, financially good, but it's going to really hurt her ability to do the things she really wants to do. I look in people's windows as her watching the people around her live the life that she wished she could living the life that she wishes she could live. I think especially watching fans' relationships online. Thank you, Amy. I'm gonna skip. I Hate It Here, I think is probably failed coming out 2019. The other I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I was so confused for a second when the podcast went off and a lot of people were upset about it. I'm like, no, this podcast is so good. Everything she's doing is feeding us so much. All right, I am winding down. I don't think I believe in Avril replacement theory. I do think to some degree there are body doubles that are used for certain occasions, especially scenarios that would be particularly dangerous. I don't know that Avril has been fully replaced, though. I do think that the industry probably put her through some stuff, and life put her through some stuff, and I think that can have more of an impact on how your face changes when you age than... And obviously, you know, people in the industry are doing any number of things to their faces. They have access to the absolute cutting edge of surgery. They have access to surgeries that we could not afford and do not have, like, available to us. Oh, gosh. I think one of the things that leads to Avril replacement theory is her being more controlled by the industry in her early career and being less controlled by the industry as she aged, because she got older and was more attached to white male power by the people she was married to. Oh, it is such a good song. All right. I am getting tired. I really appreciate you for humoring me. Keep follow me on Blue Sky. I will let you know as soon as I think there is a chance that I can do this again. And have a lovely day. Where's the button? Oh my gosh. Did it stop? Stop streaming.